Emma Farrell. Well, she's a plant spirit healer, a shamanic practitioner, and also an author, and has quite a long biography. And I think that it's so important to have to understand that connection that we've all got, and to think of the health of your body. And it's really good to be reminded of that, and I'm very much looking forward to this talk. So a big hand for Emma Farrell.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm not sure if this is turned on, actually. Oh, there we go. Okay. So hi, everybody. So I just want to say that I'm having a really beautiful weekend. It's been so nice to meet people and like-minded people in a gathering like this. It's just really, really nice. And I know we've been quite cosmic this weekend, and we've kind of gone out to the stars, and that's great. And this talk is going to take you the opposite direction and deep into the earth, which, according to the magicians of our islands, is actually one and the same thing. So I'm going to start with what is plant spirit psychic surgery. So I am a plant spirit healer, and what I do is I work with the conscious intelligence of plants. So I work with the spirit, or the Devic spirit of plants, to cleanse, purify, and bring back the integrity and the health and the vitality to my clients' energy fields. And I do this with the help of plant spirits. Not just plant spirits, but mainly plant spirits. And so what this entails is I work remotely, and so I spend a lot of time with the plants and the trees, etc. And I'm going to show you a process of how you can also work consciously with plant spirits as well in this talk. So I want it to be kind of instructional so that you can also deepen your relationship with nature. But I want to also kind of like define what I mean by plant spirits, because there is, when you can speak to your oak tree, yeah, you've got oak tree or whatever trees you've got in your garden or plants in your garden, and you can speak to the specific tree and it has a personality. Or you can speak to the Devic spirit of the species of the plant or tree. And so that's the aspect of the plant spirits that I'm referring to, not necessarily the one in your garden, the individual plant or tree, which you can, of course, receive healing from, but when it comes to actually working co-creatively, then working with the Devic spirit of the species is much better. And that's because, just like us, and I'm trained in the Celtic tradition, so we have an understanding that our bodies and our personalities from this lifetime are made from the soul forces of the earth, so the earth, air, fire, water. And so we've got this earthly body animated by all of the subtle forces, the subtle soul forces. And then through those soul forces, the eternal spirit, so the aspect of you that travels from lifetime to lifetime, can work through those soul forces. In Buddhism, they call it the substrate consciousness, and it has no form. In anthroposophy, in Rudolf Steiner's teachings, what he teaches is that aspect of us can actually have form, can take form. And this is like the next part of human evolution, in that we've mastered the astral body, or just about. We're here this is a realm of self-mastery, so we're here to understand the astral body, master our emotions so they don't rule us anymore, and this involves healing and the healing path, the inner journey, which I'm sure many of you are on. And so what Rudolf Steiner says is that's the astral layer of our energy field. And so the next evolution of human consciousness is giving form to the mental layer of our energy field, the mental layer of our consciousness. So the astral layer is the emotions and the emotional realm, the karmic realm, if you like. It's the part of us that carries most of the karmas from lifetime to lifetime. But it's the mental layer, the layer of kind of ideas, the layer of thoughts. That's the part of us that's actually just now a mental, he calls it a sheath. It doesn't have form, so it's just kind of like seen as a sheath around us. And so the next part of our evolution is giving form to this level of consciousness, actually making it conscious within us. So if you all took a dose of mushrooms, for example, you can see each other's astral bodies. If you just through intention, you'll be able to see a form of the astral body. And that's the part of the energy field that I work with my clients. So when I do a remote clearing for my clients, I'll call in the astral body of the client or an aspect of the astral body to facilitate the healing. So plant spirit healing encompasses all of that. It's a path of personal healing. It's a personal journey so that we can then become the healers to help others. So it involves healing that kind of astral part of ourselves, the emotional part of ourselves. So just as we've got this astral and eternal aspect, so do the plants and trees. And so you've got that personality of the tree in your garden has a lovely personality, but then the Devic spirit of the species of that tree is its eternal aspect. And I kind of I've studied a lot of Buddhism, and I kind of equate these eternal aspects of the plants and trees to bodhisattvas, because they're able to incarnate into this realm to help many, many people all over the world. You know, that's quite, rather than having an individual body, they're able to colonize and they're able to move through the world and just help lots of different people with their medicine. So that's an overview of what plant spirit healing is. And so the psychic surgery bit comes in, where I spend so much time with the plants and trees and get to know their spirits so well, the Devic spirit of them, that I find out what medicine each of them carries. What can they actually do energetically? What can they actually heal on the emotional level and the spiritual level? So, for example, I work with foxglove a lot, my favorite flower. And many people's favorite flower, actually, because it's so enchanting, isn't it? It's such a beautiful plant. But the Devic spirit of the overarching Devic spirit of foxglove is actually amazing at opening portals, closing portals, soul retrieval, cleansing certain forms of toxic psychic debris. So it took me a long time to get to know the spirit of the plant, to find out what they can do on that kind of spiritual and energetic sphere. So, but why do I work with plant spirits? So there's the obvious connection of, we know that the beautiful remedies that we can get, the kind of like the essences and the herbal remedies. We've got amazing herbalists in this country. We're really blessed. And we know that they can help us on both a physical and an emotional level. But when it comes to working on that spiritual level, for me, working in those psychic realms, you do come across a lot of kind of like the lower astral kind of realm. You have to deal with it. That's what my job is about, helping people to overcome this, the lower aspect of the toxic aspects of our emotions that are kind of causing us illness. And so when you're training in this work, when you're training in a shamanic way with plants, you need to be able to feel what the plants feel like in your body. And so each plant will give you a particular resonance, a particular feeling, or a kind of a vibration in your energy field that will allow you to know exactly what that plant feels like for you. So not just what it smells like, what it actually feels like. And so this is really a really important aspect of my work, because instead of me trying to connect to random, or maybe not random, but kind of beings, or, like the angels or ascended masters or something, I don't really have any kind of equivalent of that on the earth. So I don't really know, how does it feel? What does their vibration actually feel like? How does it feel like in my body and in my energy field? But with the plant, and so therefore, what I've come across is that people can end up calling in the shadow aspects of those particular beings when they're doing their work, or connecting to trying to connect to higher beings. Because if you haven't done your astral level healing, then you're not going to kind of cut through the astrals in a clean way to be able to reach those particular beings. And so a lot of people are getting kind of what I call slimed. So they're calling in shadow aspects of certain things, and so they're kind of like calling in things that are negative to them and causing them emotional and spiritual disruption and disturbance. But with the plants and trees, you don't necessarily get that unless you're being tested by them, because you can feel them. You can sit under the oak tree and you can feel how it makes you feel. So when you've got that down, when you can feel exactly how a particular spirit, how a plant works, and everything's vibration. So a spirit will work through its particular vibration. That's like its telephone number. It's like the telephone line, the direct line to your ally. Once you've established what that feeling is, that's like your direct line to that spirit. So there's no mistaking it. That's the beauty of it. So, yeah. So who are they? Who are the plant spirits? Well, I've said how they work, but how do we experience them? So, like I said, and as you know, each of the plants and trees carries its own particular medicine. So, each of the plants and trees has its own unique eternal aspect. And so what I find is, yes, some of the plants and trees their spirits do appear to me in a kind of a humanoid kind of form. We do anthropomorphize. It makes it easier for us to and we've done it for, probably throughout since when we began to think, I imagine, with anthropomorphized things. It's just, as long as we realize that that's what we're actually doing, then, it's okay. That's not the actual, that's not actually how the spirit appears as the beautiful goddess in blue, but that's how she's appeared, or that plant spirit has appeared to you. So that when we're connecting to the plant spirits, we're actually bringing their kind of frequency through our cultural and our cultural filter, our background. So I did take my mugwort essence into the Amazon and gave it to an Amazonian shaman who had never left the Amazon, and she experienced that plant spirit very differently to me. And so when I kind of asked her to describe it, it was completely different to how I see mugwort, because I wanted to see how she saw her. And so Artemisia vulgaris, to me, appears and can shapeshift as well. So it depends. It depends on the situation how plant spirits appear to you as well. So sometimes she appears as a really wrathful witch. Artemisia vulgaris, which is I think that's wormwood actually. Artemisia vulgaris, mugwort, appears as this wrathful witch. She's the witch's first herb. And so she's within her morphogenic field, she carries the witches, So in our lands, where we have this deep, deep history and mythology of the witches, so that's how mugwort can appear. Not just mugwort, but wormwood can appear that way as well. But in different situations, you get different aspects of them coming forward depending on what's required. So sometimes if there's a really a really toxic situation I'm dealing with, then mugwort will appear like that. Sometimes if I'm when I'm working with wormwood, Artemisia absinthium, which is a shadow plant, and I need to really go into the shadow aspect of what somebody's dealing with, then wormwood will appear sometimes as a Victorian detective. because she's very popular in the Victorian era. And so she's got that in a morphogenic field, and I've always lived in Victorian houses for some reason, so I'm quite connected to that kind of era. And so the plant spirits appear in different ways to us, depending on us, depending on our preferences and the requirement that's needed in the moment. But also, who are they? So who are they? So, okay, she's appearing as this witch to me, but who is she? So I think that these are higher beings. These are very evolved beings, and I do believe that the plants are way more evolved than we are, because they've been on this planet about 100 million years longer than us. So their consciousness has evolved to this level where they can emanate into many, many different bodies around the world. And so to me, they're higher beings anyway. So yeah, it's a fun journey with plants, and every plant has a different spirit. So it's just really great and really interesting and fun to get to know them. Plus, you get to spend lots of time in nature. So how do we form a working relationship with plant spirits? This is how do we get to that place where we can see the spirit of the plant? We can make an agreement with it, and I'm talking about an agreement. I don't force the plants to do anything. I don't force any spirits to do anything. That's kind of going down a bit of a dark route. It's a co-creation. It's a symbiosis. And so how do we get into that level of working with the plant spirits? Well, we have to spend time with them. And plant diets are the way to do it. So I've been doing plant diets for about 12 years, constantly. And what this is, the form I learnt was from my teacher, Pam Montgomery, who also learnt it from Carol Guyot. And it's a form that is more well known in South America. You might have heard people heading off to the Amazon to kind of drink ayahuasca for 2 months or something. But not just plants like ayahuasca. They do plant diets with lots of different trees and plants over there. But it's basically a period of time that you take out of your life to spend with one plant. So I don't think we've got a history of this, but it's so kind of obvious, I believe, when you kind of get into doing plant diets, that we must have had a history of this. It might not be written down, but we certainly did. You know, the witches have always drunk their elixirs to get to know the plants. And, you know, if you look at our own mythology, Taliesin is our kind of most famous shaman of these islands, our magical islands. And if you read the Battle of the Trees, you know, you can't bring tree spirits into battle with you if you've not dieted with them, if you've not spent a lot of time with them and got to know them on that level. So a plant diet. So I work with this kind of South American methodology, but with our common native plants and trees. I only really work with our common native plants and trees. I have worked with ayahuasca and iboga from Africa, and they changed my life. But I wanted to know what my own plants and trees had to say. because I'm going to resonate with them much better than having a long-distance relationship with the plant in another country. So to do a plant diet, you set aside a period of time, and this can be as much time as you have. We all live modern lives, and we're all busy, we've got kids, or maybe not, but you've got pressurized jobs perhaps. And so it depends how much time you've actually got. So a plant diet can be anything from a year, years, down to just a few days. So when I do a plant diet with my students and with my attendees to my courses, we will just fast for 3 days, and then we only consume that plant for 3 days. And then we do lots of kind of work to integrate it, we embody it. So we do shamanic journeys, we do inner work, meditations, we dance, we're creative with it, and we allow the plant to speak through us. But we're always looking for that handle, that energetic frequency that the plant spirit creates within our unique energetic system, so that we can make a deep connection to it. So you spend the time, you're spending time with the plant. So it could be that you've got a few weeks, so you're not going to fast for a few weeks, but at least kind of just eat some kind of basic food, because you're really wanting to kind of like get into that subtle level of the plants. So if you're somebody who kind of has a lot of stimulants, for example, coffee, etc., alcohol, then, it is best to kind of like cut stimulants down, because you're wanting to kind of make yourself more sensitive. So when people come to do plant diets with me, I make sure that everybody's detoxed in advance, so people aren't detoxing on the retreat, because nobody wants a caffeine headache when you're trying to connect to the plant spirits. So you can decide on your amount of time that you've got, basically. But then how do you get the plants into you? Well, this is where a little bit of herbalism comes into play. You need to know whether the plant that you want to work with is edible, for a start, and what the contraindications are. But also, you can work with poisonous plants, like I do with foxglove and the yew tree, but just through the essence. So that's the biofrequency. They're the medicines of the biofrequency of the plant. So an essence protocol, that many herbalists prescribe, is a plant diet. So you can turn it into a shamanic journey in that way. But the essences are what I work with as well, primarily, because they're the energetic frequency of the plant held in water and then fixed with some alcohol. But that frequency, that unique frequency of the plant, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the batch remedies in Boots. They're the kind of your basic plants. They're not made with the conscious intelligence of the plant anymore, so they're a little bit kind of flat, a bit two-dimensional. But if you make an essence in co-creation with the spirit of the plant, then you're making a much more dynamic medicine. You're making a remedy that you can connect to through that frequency. You can connect to the spirit of the plant. So the consciousness of the plant can work through that frequency. So you're introducing that frequency into your energy field. Yes, it can help you emotionally, but what I find with the batch remedies is that they kind of cancel out. People are used to in our society, oh, I'm feeling angry. I just don't want to feel angry anymore. I just want to cancel it out. It's the kind of allopathic approach of let's just kind of like get rid of it. But with plant spirit essences, what they do is they bring up our stuff for us to look at. We have to bring things to truly heal anything. We have to bring it into conscious awareness. We have to bring the light of awareness into the dark shadows and recesses of our mind to find out what's in there. And the plants and trees are amazing at doing this, because it's not just plants that like ayahuasca that reflect your consciousness back at us. It's not just the psychedelic plants that do that. All nature reflects us back at us on that emotional level. The astral planes are a mirror, and so the plants and trees on that emotion, when you're working emotionally, they reflect that back at you so that you can see clearly what's going on for you, where the root of that trauma is, where the root of that issue is. And quite often what happens is, as soon as you look at something and you bring the light in, it just loses a lot of its power that it has over you. So a lot of healing can happen quite quickly as long as we're brave enough to just look. And so the plants and trees, the beauty about working with plants and trees is that they can actually hold us in that process, because a lot of them are protective, a lot of them are supportive in other ways. They can cleanse us, because if you're going through something transformative or traumatic, you know, you can be susceptible to kind of like lower vibrational kind of infiltration, because in the energy world, like attracts like. So it's great to have allies like the plants and trees on board if you are doing inner work, just to support you, actually, and just to help show you the way and help be that lamp on the path that we need in times of trouble and in challenging times. And, you know, we've all been through challenging times the last few years, you know. If you haven't, you know, I'm not sure if you're living, you know, it's been challenging on personal level. You know, many people have been through huge life changes this last few years. It's been phenomenal, myself included. And so, yeah, nature is there to support us, absolutely. So back to plant diets. So plant diets are all about this. So a plant diet in South America, there'll be, the shamans will do plant diets to find out, to bring back information from the spirit world, to help the tribe, to bring healing, to just get information about how they can defend themselves, etc., and to bring healing to anybody who needs it. So that's what, without having to defend our territory, we're going into plant diets to allow our healing process, so that we can learn from the plant spirits. You get insight, you get knowledge, absolutely. You get downloads, you get information, you get insights. And so, so you've set your period of time. Perhaps you want to kind of take tinctures as well as an essence. You might want to just have teas. A lot of people, you know, tinctures are quite a strong, fiery medicine because they've got alcohol in them, and we're quite sensitive folk. So, you know, quite often we just need water-based stuff, actually. That's what I found, is we need that kind of nurturing that water gives. So a lot of people just work with teas and essences, and that's actually enough. But you take that particular plant for the duration of your chosen amount of time. And we all know that how we start a process is how it unfolds. It kind of how you start any project, how you start anything. The energy from the starting point of your project will roll through the entire kind of experience of what you're manifesting or creating. And so it's the same with a plant diet. How you start it is key. So it's really important to honor the plant. It's really important to kind of set intentions for working with the plants. And setting intentions when working with plants is the key to working with them. You know, you always get your intentions answered. It really might not be in the way that you expect, and it generally isn't, but you do get your intentions answered. You do get what you ask for. You know, the plants are benevolent when you work with them in this way. So quite often I harvest my own plants, and I grow my own plants and harvest them for medicines, etc., which I prefer, but you can, of course, buy them from beautiful shops like Star Child on the high street, you know, and so... But we honor the plants in this way by making offerings. You know, like I said, it's a co-creation. So if I want to invite somebody round to my house for a cup of tea or for dinner, then I'll send out an invitation. And so that's what an offering is when we make offerings to plants. You know, I want to learn from this being, you know, and, you know, when you work with foxglove and Angelica archangelica and vervain, you know, these are powerful plants. And so they've got powerful spirits. So, you know, I want to ingratiate myself and be polite, you know. So I'll make an offering, and that can be, you know, you can make an offering or you can offer some food or drink or something. But anyway, offerings, they create, over time, the more offerings you make as well, they create this energetic connection between you and that spirit, the spirit world. So offerings are really key because you're giving, you know, it's I think they call it Aini, this process in South America, this process of reciprocity. And so what we give, we can receive, and vice versa. And so when I'm working with a plant spirit, I want to find out, I want to know what the plant spirit can do for me in my healing work or for my personal healing journey. But what can I do for it as well? So in a shamanic sense, when we have a spirit team, when we run a spirit team to work with, you know, it's not just one way. It's my responsibility to look after my team as well. What do they need? So what do my plant spirits need from me? Well, they all need something different. They might not need anything, actually. Some might just need to be trusted. Some might want offerings put out, you know, to come into this kind of like thick, dense soup that we all live in from the finer kind of densities. It takes a lot of energy, you know, so putting food offerings, some of them have requested that in the past. So offerings are key, so making your kind of offerings at the start of a plant diet and maybe doing a kind of a little ceremony for yourself, an opening ceremony, etc. And then you kind of like, you keep a journal to make sure that you can remember what mood you were in last week and what happened for you. And you just kind of keep a note of what's going on for you. And you take time every day to connect to the spirit through, plant spirit through your intention and through meditations or journeys, etc., or drawing or writing. Conscious writing is great for this, actually, to channel these beautiful spirits. And so you're getting to know the plant over a long period of time. And so you get to understand how it works. And when we allow the plant spirits to heal us, that's when we can find out how we can work with the plant spirits to help other people, if that's your intention to, you know, to incorporate this as part of your healing work. Because plant spirits really do blend into many healing modalities, not just plant spirit healing. You know, I've got friends who are masseurs who work with plant spirits and yoga teachers who work with plant spirits. You know, it blends, it's such a beautiful thing in that, you know, nature's so creative, it can adapt into many different forms. And of course, we're all unique and we're creative, so we can adapt them to work with us or our work to blend them in. So it's beautiful to bring plants into lots of different healing work. So then you're finding out how the plant spirits work over the period of your plant diet. And it's really important with all shamanic processes to finish what you started. You know, don't kind of, it's really not a good idea to kind of end plant diets early unless you really have to. And then the plant spirit will know that was coming anyway, because they live outside of time and space, and so they can kind of know what's going to happen during the plant diet anyway. And you'll experience healings, insights, downloads, all of that in a different way, and in a different way each time you do plant diets. You know, so each time you do one of these diets, you might get, say, all of your downloads and your insights on day one, and then you're just integrating for the rest of that period of time. Or not a great deal can happen for a while, and then it's kind of building up, and then on the last day, like, oh, that's what the last 2 weeks was all about. So, and it's good to have an understanding of astrology. I loved Wendy's talk the other day because I've learned astrology over the last few years just so I can understand, A, what the hell's going on and what's coming, but also to help me understand the plants, because each of the plants and trees are associated with different planets. And so when they're associated with those planets, they're energetically connected to them. And so we're in a Venus retrograde at the moment, so I'm doing a plant diet with vervain, which is associated with Venus, so it's all about kind of like going into, and it's in Leo, so it's all about going into deeper aspects of self-love. And vervain then is a plant of rebirth and taking you into a new reality. So fingers crossed, by the end of 40 days, I'll be enlightened. And so understanding, I'm not used to using PowerPoints, so if I forget, and I've already talked about it, we can just skip on. But understanding their elemental expression is key to understanding what the plant spirits do, because, they all work in different ways. And so with the plant spirit, they've got like a bandwidth of frequencies within which they work, okay? So you've got lady's mantle, okay? So lady's mantle is a beautiful water plant. There's no doubt that lady's mantle is associated with water because she's deeply, deeply feminine. The name gives it away for a start. But each of the plants express their elemental quality in a different way. So the yew tree, if anybody's familiar with yew trees, these are really magical trees, but they're associated with water. So there's a different reason why a yew tree will be associated with water as opposed to lady's mantle. So the yew tree is like one of the most profound trees, and we're so blessed to have such ancient yew trees in these lands, particularly Wales, where I did most of my shamanic training, just in the middle of nowhere in Wales. I lived for 4 years underneath a yew tree, so I got to know the yew tree intimately, and I trained with Michael Dunning, who's a yew shaman. I've graduated as a yew tree mysteries initiate, and so I've really understood the yew tree quite deeply, and so it holds the gateway to the other world. It holds a portal. And in the kind of the Celtic understanding of our kind of heritage, the other world is a water realm, and it's watery. It's a feminine. It's like so we've got our consciousness, our consciousness that's our kind of our gross conceptual consciousness, if you like, the one that attaches to the physical realm. That's quite a yang, that's an outward-facing consciousness. But then we've got this yin consciousness that's inward-facing, and that takes you into the other world. And that yin quality is very watery. So this is where the kind of like the mythology of the water realms and all the kind of the elven realms, etc., are watery. And so the yew tree holds the portal to those realms. And so you can travel really nicely through yew trees if you haven't tried it already. So elemental expressions of plants are key to understanding their medicine, their magic, their healing qualities, and how they can actually work within a plant spirit psychic surgery. So with the yew tree, actually I could probably speak for about 2 days on the yew tree because it's just such a phenomenal tree. But what can the yew tree do for me in my clearing work, in my healing work? So the yew tree has really come into its own over the last few years as we have had the rollout of this vaccine. Energetically, I've been studying the vaccine for the past 2 years. I work with the vaccine injured and the people who have taken it and not necessarily injured in the physical sense, but it affects everybody's energy body without exception, unless they've had placebo. I have had clients I've come across who didn't show any signs of effects from the vaccine, and so I just concluded that they must have had a placebo. But what I've come across is really kind of like some really unusual things, a lot of toxicities and new entities. So it's actually calling in, it's actually kind of like somehow bringing through a new form of entity. Not new in that these entities haven't been here for a long time. They have, I discovered, but they were certainly new to me. I'd never come across them. But through my research, etc., I did kind of find out that they have been around for a long time. But the yew tree is amazing at removing these entities. So that's... but unless I know the yew tree and I know its elemental expression, I wouldn't know which of my spirit team to go to actually find the remedy for the particular thing I'll find in my client's energy field. So I work in a really specific way. I'm not into kind of random healing, just calling in healing and hoping it does the trick. No, what I do is a forensic investigation into my client's energy fields. And whatever I find, whether it's a split, whether it's a particular type of toxicity, an entity, etc., then I will work with one of my allies to actually do the healing, whether it's removing, repatterning, or cleansing, whatever's required. But like I said, each plant spirit works within a particular frequency, so a bandwidth of frequencies. So understanding the elements that plant works within is really key to kind of understanding its medicine. And actually, understanding the elements is key to most things, isn't it? It's key to so many shamanic traditions, indigenous cultures, etc., because it's the fundamental building blocks of life. So, understanding the elements is just like a really beautiful practice within itself, to be honest. Spend time with them, I've already kind of said that. And get to know your handle. So this energetic frequency that I've mentioned, this unique frequency that the plant spirits make within your energy field. It's important to get to know that. So what I wanted to next talk about was, which I've already kind of mentioned, is this astral awareness. So basically understanding it, when you're working in the realm of the plants, it's best to have a cosmology within which you're working, because the more you diet with plants, the more psychic you become. It's just like a byproduct. It's kind of the more you cleanse your energy field, because you're allowing the plants to heal you first, yeah? So you're getting cleansed, you're getting entities removed, you're kind of stepping into your power, basically. Stepping and not being kind of ruled by your emotions, still embracing our emotions. They make us human, but they're not ruling us anymore. We're able to see them and allow them to pass through and know where they came from. So having an awareness, a cosmology within which you're working is kind of key, really. Understanding like what, and you can use many kind of cosmology, there are many cosmologies, systems within which to understand the universe. I just work within the Celtic, but I also the Vedic system is so well known, the chakra system and the layers of the energy field are so well known that, that's how I kind of communicate and work with my clients, because they'll understand what I'm talking about. So understanding what this kind of framework is really key. And knowing the astral plane, knowing that plane of consciousness well is fundamental. Because, so when we're going through our healing process and we're dealing with entities, which is my next point anyway, when we're dealing with entities, we need to know basically how a particular entity or a particular toxicity has got into our energy field. So I'm generally, when I'm talking about entities, I'm generally talking about attachments. I'm not talking about possession, possessed by demons. I mean, that is an aspect, but it's quite rare. But generally, when you come across entities that are attached into people's energy fields, they're literally just attached through cords of attachment. But you have to know you want to know how they got in, because, that when we've got unresolved trauma, when we've got unresolved kind of issues in our life, then what that does is it leaves a hole in the psyche. It's this dark plays this kind of like this forgotten aspect of ourselves that we've just shut away because it's been too traumatic for us. You know, generally childhood, but we bring those kind of issues over from past lives as well, or can do. So these kind of, so the energy body, the psyche, the energy field, the body, is actually all one. We kind of separate them to understand them better, but they're actually all one. So when an entity is attaching into your energy field, it's only got in through a gateway, a doorway. It's kind of like when that process of unresolved issues from childhood, and you know there are some terrible ones, terrible things that people go through, but they've left kind of holes in the energy field because you've still got an unresolved part of your psyche that you're not embodying. Yourself isn't there anymore because you've shut it away. Sometimes this can involve soul retrieval, which I'm sure you're aware of, that can be done. We kind of like, it's metaphorically speaking, we disconnect a part of our astral body, our emotional body, and we hide it away in the astral plane somewhere to kind of just, you know, because the trauma's too much. You know, it could be repeated trauma, or it could be one particular trauma. And when I say trauma, I know this is quite a strong word, but even, you know, from a child's perspective, even something quite minor, such as kind of your mum crossing the road without holding your hand, you know, something quite minor like that can be quite traumatic for some children. So when I use the word trauma, I know it's a really strong word, and of course it relates to kind of strong traumas that we have, but it also, you know, can just be kind of perceived as strongly. So we have these kind of gateways in our energy field, these doorways that we're not minding. And so that's how entities and toxicities can get into our energy field. So we need to know what that trauma is. So it's coming back full circle to understanding, you know, these ourselves. That's what this is all about. The plants really teach us how to be human. They get us back to our original self. And so with entities as well, I wanted to touch on something that, a part of my work that I'd never really kind of touched on before, and that is coming across ETs in my clients' energy fields. Before the pandemic, I'd never really kind of even considered ETs. And okay, I thought about them, and you know, and I thought I'd seen a UFO on Bodmin once, but I'd never really considered ETs. So I wasn't that interested. You know, I'm a triple Virgo. I'm here in this realm. So they don't really interest me that much. Although I've really enjoyed listening to things like that this week, the discussions this weekend. It's quite fascinating. But during the pandemic, and I'm talking about the lockdown, they were in all of my clients' energy fields, like all different kinds of them, insectoids, tall greys, short greys, you know, lots of, sometimes 2 or 3. And so they were really fascinated by us and the trauma that we were going through. And actually, for me, that was the pandemic. You know, that was the pandemic. You know, there clearly wasn't a pandemic going on, but so that for me, that's what was going on. It was almost like an alien invasion. And so I was like contacting I'm in circles of healers and anthroposophical healing group, etc. And so finding out, like, is everybody else finding this? And everybody was finding them. So, and they're quite insidious. So I'm talking here about the toxic ETs. I'm not talking about the benevolent ones. I'm sure there are both. We live in a dualistic realm where there are kind of off-planet, I don't want to call them ETs actually, but off-planet beings who are benevolent. The Venusians, for example, are really great in helping to heal the effects of the vaccine. So I'm talking about the kind of the regressive ones, the toxic ones, the ones that don't respect our free will. And so they psychically trespass our energy field. And so I was finding technology, etheric technology in people's energy fields. I was finding eggs, like, you know, they were kind of implanting people, trying to kind of like terraform us so that they can kind of like have more physical form. So these off-planet entities, they don't always kind of like manifest themselves in the energy field either. They're quite clever, a lot of them. They actually just stream in. It's almost like they beam in their consciousness and just leave an imprint of themselves in the energy field. So you have to, you know, when you come across them, you have to decipher what the hell's going on. So I had to learn new techniques about how to kind of like remove them and send them back to whence they came, and then clean up after them, because they're extremely toxic. So they will leave a lot of kind of debris and energetic toxicity in the energy field. So yeah, I don't often share that part of my work with people, but I thought, you know, I've been listening to all these talks. I was like, okay, this is a really open-minded group. I can actually. Okay, thank you. Okay, my pleasure. But of course, you know, when we're dealing with the astral realms and we're dealing with the darker astral realms, the demonic realms as well, you know, we have to recognize that these beings are, the demonic realms are, and the kind of lower astral realms, they're all made from human thought form. So they are dualistic in that they are created by our misunderstanding of reality, you know, our dualism. But you know, because there is this kind of concept that, you know, entities, you know, we're all one consciousness, and so, you know, they are nothing but ourselves, which is true. I totally understand that. That's true. But for me, non-polarity, non-dualism is they're both. They are both us, but they're separate from us as well. In our animistic world, you know, where I understand that everything has consciousness, or a level of consciousness. You know, I've got my printer working before by working with the Devic spirit of the printer. You know, if you speak to geomancers, you know, there's spirit of place, there's spirit. We are creating one spirit between us, an egregore with us over the course of this weekend. You know, but as soon as we leave, then it'll kind of dissipate. So there's a kind of a Devic spirit of everything, and that's its consciousness. So if we are group, we have unity consciousness, but we're also individuals. It's the same those realms as well. Yes, those beings are made from all the dark, deep and troubling traumas of humans over the course of millennia. The astrals have, you know, they've been there since we've been able to have emotions, so they're very, very old. This part of the kind of consciousness is, Rudolf Steiner refers to it as the 8th sphere. Okay, so it's created by human thought form. So those beings, yes, they're us, but they're also not us. They've also got a consciousness of their own that can journey and travel from person to person. So we can inherit these lovely beings from our families. We share demons with our families. You know, we're so loving like that. So there are many types of entities that you can come across, and there are many more cultural types of entities. But the plants and trees you'll find when you're working with the plants and trees that they kind of like, sometimes you'll see them, you know, because developing our psychic senses, like I said, is like a byproduct. The more you work with plant spirits, the more plants you eat, the more time you spend in nature, and the cleaner your energy field becomes, and therefore the more kind of shadow work you do, because you're working with the plants all the time, the more integration of your shadow and your kind of traumas that you do, you just kind of reveal like our natural state, which is, you know, kind of psychic, you know, so it's just a normal way of being. And we're all psychic in different ways to begin with. You know, some people will be more kind of like clairvoyant, some people will be more clairsentient. But actually, we need to develop, in the shamanic sense, we develop all of those 5 senses on the inner world. You know, we've developed the inner 5 senses just the same as the external ones. And the plants help us to do that. So when we're wanting to kind of discern between all this crazy information that's going on in the world, all the misinformation, the disinformation, and the truth, the bits of truth that are out there, we need to have a clean energy field, because otherwise what these entities and toxicities do is they create a false mind. So all of the dark thoughts, all of the kind of like the unhelpful thoughts, all those self-loathing thoughts, they're not helpful to us because they're not truth. You know, if we all actually allowed the plants and trees to help us to develop that mental sheath into form, to help us to connect to our highest self. The mental sheath is the highest self. It's our superconsciousness. 5th dimensional consciousness in New Age terms, but I don't like using that. But if we allow the plants and trees to heal us on the astral level, we're able to develop much quicker on that superconsciousness level. And so, therefore, we can discern truth much easier if we have a clean energy field. So doing our inner work, working with the plants and trees, and allowing them to kind of do that for us, and for us to be in that co-creative way, not only does this, it helps us to just be healthier and more human and more kind of happier. We all want to be happy, yeah? Not only helps us to do that, but it gives us a deeper connection to nature, which is, you know, what we all really, really need. We are children of this earth. Okay, some of us, our eternal spirits might have been born on Lyra or whatever, or Pleiades, which is true, but actually you're human right now, and so it's human that we need to kind of understand, being human in these most monumental times, which are amazing. You know, these are transformational times. The astrology is telling us it's so powerful. And so the plants and trees are evolving with us. They don't get left behind. You know, so we can co-evolve with the plants and trees. And so just really having that deeper connection to the inner realms of nature is so beneficial for us, and can just help you in your life in so many ways. And so doing the plant diets, however gentle that is, just connecting in that way and making that intention and setting that time aside to do that can just have such profound effects for you. So, yeah, I hope you decide to spend some time and diet with some of our common native plants and trees. So, thank you.